Well, here we go with a weekend show of Orange and Blue today. Cecil, Lammey, Andrew Mason, and Camp Stiddy. What? Do we have a name for this? What's our name? I mean, it's got to be Camp Stiddy, right?
Everyone calls Jarrett Stidham Stiddy, and he's the guy who's organizing the throwing sessions for the quarterbacks. So, yeah, Bo Nix is going to be there. Zach Wilson's going to be there. The running backs, the wide receivers, the tight ends. Yeah, Camp Stiddy rolls off the tongue. I mean, I guess you could say Camp Stidham, but does anybody say Stidham? No, it's Stiddy. When I was out at Coors Field on Wednesday night talking with Broncos players, and whenever anyone brought up Stidham, it was never Jarrett or it was never Stidham. It was always Stiddy, which is why it's always interesting when I hear Sean Payton refer to Stidham and say Jarrett. I'm not quite used to that because I'm so used to everyone just saying Stiddy. It's a sign of affection. When everyone refers to you by a nickname like that, it means they regard you in pretty high esteem.
Yes, and teammates certainly love him. First off, let's shut down any sort of, I don't know, faux controversy. We know how this industry is, Mace. Why isn't Bo Nix the one leading the way? Okay, calm down, everybody. Stiddy is a leader. Stiddy is leading Bo Nix. Stiddy is making Bo Nix better. So let's squash that before we get further into the conversation.
Yeah, it's all good. It's actually a healthy thing that Bo Nix gets to see Jarrett Stidham and how he brings everybody together like this. You and I have said multiple times, whether Bo Nix is the week one starter or not, he needs to hang out with Jarrett Stidham because Stiddy is a pro who knows how to relate to everybody in the locker room, understands innately that being the quarterback means not just being the leader of your position group, but being the leader of your team. And it was a reason why when Sean Payton inserted him in the lineup late last year, players responded to him. And frankly, a lot of them were pretty happy for him getting that shot there in the last 2 weeks.
Right. Happy for him. Happy to go to this camp and happy to see him as a leader. And I'm sure Bo Nix is happy that he has someone like Jarrett Stidham to help guide the way. And this is the way it's going to be. This year it's Camp Stiddy. Next year it's probably Camp Bo. But right now he's learning.
Yeah, and maybe it's in a different spot. Camp Stiddy's in Texas because that's his home base. Kind of get the call on that, but that's okay. And the thing is, part of Jarrett Stidham and a reason why he's a good teammate, you see him talking with Bo Nix a lot. He's offering pointers. He's offering tips. It's not a quarterback room where you've got guys looking over their shoulder and they're, not helping each other. This isn't Joe Flacco not being a mentor to Drew Lock and basically saying the best way Drew can learn is by watching me. It's not like that with Jarrett Stidham in the quarterback room. He's the most experienced guy, so in terms of years in the league. Zach Wilson has more starts, but Jarrett Stidham, came into the league a couple years earlier, so he's the senior member, and that comes with some responsibilities. And what we're seeing and what we're hearing from other players is he's living up to it.
And here's Jarrett Stidham on why you have these sort of sessions.
I'm having everybody out to Dallas, quarterbacks, all the skill guys, just trying to, get some team camaraderie, obviously work out and throw and work on some things that we need to work on, but it's also about hanging out with each other and getting to know each other and, putting in that effort to actually, genuinely care about your teammates. I think that is really important.
It's interesting. He said, put in that effort to genuinely care about your teammates. It's not that it doesn't come naturally, but you get so busy with the task of being a pro football player and frankly surviving in the NFL that sometimes you don't take the time you have to budget the time to make sure you get to know the people around you. And when you do that, you forge those bonds. They forge the bonds that bring everybody together. It's like you and I talked about on the show on Friday about glue guys and how if the glue is working and everybody's together, You're going to have a team that is greater than the sum of its parts. And part of that is taking the time to get to know the people around you. You get to know those guys. You find out what makes them tick. You find out, you share what makes yourself tick to them.
Right.
You build a trust. And when you're, and you get to December and you're on the road in Cincinnati and the crowd in the jungle is screaming at you and wants nothing for you but to fail and fail miserably. And you're in that huddle and you look around and you see a bunch of guys that you've gotten to know and you've come to love. And it's the sort of thing that you look at each other with all the little deposits you've put in over the course of the months that you've been together. And you're like, okay, yeah, we're together. Let's go do this. We know each other. We believe in each other.
Right.
There's no statistic to measure that, but it has value.
I don't want to get too crunchy on you, Mace, but when he says care, to me, that's the generative principle. It's what makes everything happen, right?
Yeah.
And in my life's philosophy, that's what it is. You care. Your thoughts and emotions, you care, your focus, where your actions at. It's on what you care about. And I'm not saying that Russell Wilson didn't care about his teammates, but I will say this. How much of Camp Russ was about Instagram and for the gram and for the videos and for the, hey, look, I'm working out. Hey, we're in LA. Hey, I'm Russell Wilson. I bet we see hardly any of this.
You know what? I don't know if any of the guys that are going to be at Camp Stiddy are going to watch this. And I don't know that anyone cares what I think, but I don't want to see any TikToks, any X/Twitter videos, any Instagram reels. Just go and be together, get to know each other, hang out, work out together. It's all about that. You don't need to show that off for the public. You don't need to make a big deal out of it. I don't need to be sitting there on June 10th and see a hype video from a workout. No.
Yeah.
What? You don't need to show the world. I've talked to enough guys. We know you're putting in the work. Keep it to yourself. That's okay. Not everything requires a pulling back of the curtain to say, look at me, look at us, look what we're doing. No, you don't have to do that. We know you're putting in the work. Right.
Well, I'll quote The Incredibles when Dash says, like, if everyone's special, then nobody is. And if you see all the behind the scenes and everything, well, then what do I need to see? Yeah. Like, if we do see something, then that's special because we already know they're putting in the work. Yeah. And that's what they're going to do without coaches. Something that Jarrett Stidham talked about with you about working out and how it's different without your coaches around. Here's what Jarrett Stidham said.
If it's, certain things I see or, one of the quarterbacks, like we talk about things in the meeting room that, sometimes may not be able to get voiced out on the practice field at times. So it's able to like slow down a little bit, talk about certain things and build that continuity.
Like that, practice moves at a pretty crisp pace, except when Sean Payton wants to make a big point and they'll put the brakes on. Although it's funny, I don't think we saw as much of that this year in OTAs and minicamp as we did last year. And I think that's the reason why he let him out a day earlier this week.
Yep.
But practice, you're trying to maintain a tempo. You're going, okay, we're going from 7-on-7 to teams. We're going from teams to, 11-on-11, and we're going from this to another special teams period. We're going from that to another 11-on-11. We're going to go red zone, right? Everything is planned down. It's planned meticulously. So it's less organized, and that's okay. It's looser. And so if there's that freedom to just say, okay, let's slow this down and kind of ruminate on this concept. Why does it need to work? What do we have to do to make it work? Right. And the cool part of it is that it's another layer of learning when you don't have the coaches telling you, but it's the players together figuring it out. And again, it sort of factors into what I was saying if you're in Cincinnati and the crowd is yelling and you're huddling up together. It's not only guys that you got to know, but it's guys that helped you along. Adam Troutman did something to help Lucas Kroll. Maybe Lucas Kroll did something to help Troy Franklin. And it kind of, you go around that huddle and you see all the strings that bind together. I feel like we're doing a Ted Lasso thing here. There are all these little strings of guys helping each other along that pull you together when it matters most. And this is one of those times, like, you're not looking to Davis Webb or somebody for advice. You're looking at yourselves in order to say, how are we going to get this right? And there's a benefit to that.
Yeah. Benefit in working together, learning together, and learning how each one of you learn. I don't know about you, Mace, but I'm a hands-on person. Like, I will learn more when I do something rather than when someone tells me or I have to read something. Yeah. Let me do it. These guys are going to go do it, right? And they're going to learn how each one of them learns, because they all learn differently.
Right. And that's something that helps as well, because you realize what everyone responds to. There are some people who can see it on the printed page, and that's what they're looking for.
Sure.
There are some people who can look at the iPad playbook, see a player on the screen, like, okay, I got it. There are plenty of others, though, that have to actually go out there and run the route, execute the play in order for it to stick. And it's extra work in a little more relaxed environment, but it's work that has value to it. And then when they're all sitting there in the meetings, if you know the learning style of your teammates and one of them's having trouble with something, then you know how to help that person. It's part of another layer of what you're learning about your teammates. You learn from something like this how to help your teammate learn better and get the concept down. And then, because again, some people are going to hear the position coach up there and they're going to get it right away. I admire that in people that can just hear something on television, can hear something in a lecture, and it just sticks. Because me, I got to read it or I got to write it out. My brain.
It's like those people that can play music after hearing it. You're like, how in the hell do you do that?
It's kind of a great parlor trick, isn't it? Like, I don't know. Did you ever see Amadeus back in the day?
Oh, of course, yeah.
Yeah, the scene, like, there's a Salieri composes a little, march, a little piece when Mozart comes to visit the emperor, and it's like, you can keep the sheet. You can keep the sheet. I have it right here. And then the emperor's like, show us. And then, of course, Mozart starts playing it. But then he's like, oh, I think we could do this better.
Well, maybe that's something that'll happen when you work out without coaches. Like, hey, they like us doing it this way, but what if we tried this and then we can show it back to them?
And here's the other thing that's really cool about the way the Broncos go about things with their position coaches is that there is a freedom to go out there and try things. As Zach Streif told me earlier this week, hey, you're not going to get cut because you're trying something new and you have a bad practice day. You don't have to worry about that. It's part of the learning process, and that gives players. It not only does it give them the freedom to try to take the steps to grow, but also if it's something that's a little bit of an individual expression of themselves within the team concept, gives them a chance to explore that as well. We usually talk about that in soccer and basketball, but there's definitely some of that that's possible in football too. There is, especially for receivers, tight ends, and running backs, there is an artistry to it that can make you a better player, but also helps you kind of enjoy it more, right? Like if you find that moment where you fiddle around with something and you get to kind of express yourself creatively in that, you're going to help the team, and you're going to be a better teammate, a better player.
Yeah, you're going to like it more. You're going to enjoy it more, and you're going to enjoy it together. Again, everything together. Jaleel McLaughlin is a player that, well, you got it together with this kid. And Jaleel said this about Camp Stiddy.
It's big because I can actually see what Stiddy wants. Stiddy is the one out there, and he's he's doing his job out there. I want to know how he wants me to react to his play out there without even him having to tell me that when it comes game time situations. So I think that's what that's where the money is made out there. Not during the during the season as well, but I'm saying like in the off season when you actually go hey Stiddy, what do you want right here? And me and him just talking. Now we're on the same page.
Love that. Love that. Because, and this is another thing, it kind of goes hand in hand with a conversation that we had back on Thursday about Jaleel McLaughlin and learning to be better in pass pro, being able to identify things and help the quarterback be another set of eyes. Right. And then like you get that communication down, and then you get to where you don't have to say anything. The crowd's screaming and yelling. You're not going to be able to say anything. You got to be able to just do it with, a gesture, okay. Yeah. Touch the chin strap, put your hand on the ear hole, perhaps.
Right.
Yeah. Maybe tug on your face mask. And then whether it's Stidham or Bo Nix or Zach Wilson, then they'll know. And it's, you create that language. And that's another part of bonding, when you kind of create your own language that goes beyond words, right?
Nonverbal, like this. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Oh, you had to go there.
That's our verbal cue, right? Like, hey.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Dinner with Paul Allen.
Well, it is building.
If you know.
Learning how each other learns and learning how it's best communicated. Sometimes as a player, and again, it's not about me, but for me, I'm like, you can chew me out. You can. I can take a chewing. But you know what? I need a little loving, right? And love him up. So as a teammate, you can learn, like, can you get on this guy, or do you got to be you got to communicate differently? It's very important.
It's very important. I'll say it's something that Sean Payton as a head coach understands, having worked for Bill Parcells, because Bill Parcells, has that hard ass reputation, but he's like right there with Jimmy Johnson, is like maybe the two most emotionally intelligent coaches we've had come through the NFL. And what I mean by that is they understood the psychology and they understood how players responded to different things. Bill Parcells came into the league under Ray Perkins back with the Giants in the early 1980s. And there's a lot, and of course Sean Payton worked for Bill Parcells. There's a lot they do that goes back to Ray Perkins, but Perkins, one of the reasons why he did not last as a coach, particularly in Tampa Bay, was because he only knew one gear. Parcells was like the version 2.0 who understood, okay, not every guy responds to the same thing. Some guys I've got to reassure. Some guys I can kick him in the ass every day, and that's what they're going to want.
Yep, that's what
not every guy wants that. And I think Sean Payton, by and large, has a pretty good understanding of that as well. It doesn't always end up being ultimately successful, but I mean, I look back at what Sean did with Jerry Jeudy last year and how much he worked with him. Again, it didn't work out, but he understood that he needed a different type of coaching. And It's good for teammates to understand that as well, that, you can't do the verbal laceration to every guy. But there are some guys who need that, who need to hear who need to hear every cuss word in the book, who need to be MF'd into oblivion. They can take that. They respond to it.
Yep. Courtland Sutton was at both Camp Russ, and now he'll be at Camp Stiddy. Here's what Court had to say about the new camp.
Man, I think it's huge. I think it's huge for us to be able to go get work away from the coaches, just us being able to coach each other up, hold each other accountable. building that camaraderie on the field, but then off the field, us being able to go get dinner and just sit and talk about life. A lot of the guys, you know, we know some of each other, you know, but there's, you know, the young guys, the young rookies, Bo, and, you know, some of the other young guys that are going to be coming out there. I think that, you know, it's going to be really big for us to be able to just go and chat and get to learn each other. And I think that, you know, you have those teams that have that camaraderie. I think that it builds stronger teams. I think it builds that desire. So it almost resembles a high school team or a college team where you do any and everything together, and you'll really go out there and fight for the brother next to you. And I think that doing these you know, functions away from the facility is going to allow us to be able to go out there and, you know, build that camaraderie that's going to build up until, you know, the season.
I like that. Go out to dinner. We see some of that on the defensive side as well. We know like that the defensive backs go out for dinner at least once a week. It was something that Justin Simmons and Kareem Jackson played a big part in organizing. Now it's passed to Pat Surtain and PJ Locke, part of them growing as leaders. See, and that's kind of a cool thing. And I think also for Courtland Sutton, who's of course missed that time during OTAs, those days are going to be really important for him because he's kind of got some catch-up work to do here in terms of getting to know the guys.
It does,
right?
Yep.
Now he had the chance during minicamp to, you know, spend time with Bo Nix, and he's talked about how mature Nix is. That's something you're hearing from a lot of guys, but it's important for him, and I think it's important for everybody else to get to know Courtland Sutton, assuming that this contract stalemate does not result in him holding out. Of course, he said we'll see a few days ago when asked about that. And then the next day he met with Sean Payton for a while. So I don't know if that means there's a détente, but at least they're communicating. But it's the whole situation is a reminder of why those few days in Dallas with teammates at Camp Stiddy, they're going to be real important to Court.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's effectively a new team. He put out the GIF, the Will Smith GIF in the empty room at the end of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, right? Back then, he was looking around in March and seeing the empty room. Well, you know what? That room has filled up again, and he's still here. But that room has filled up with, you know, Troy Franklin and Josh Reynolds and Devon Vele and Bo Nix and Zach Wilson and even some returning guys he may not know very well. I mean, we saw in week 18 before he injured his ankle, Courtland Sutton and Jarrett Stidham weren't on the same page. I mean, hey, Court probably needs to get to know Lucas Kroll a little bit, right? I mean,
sure.
might be in the huddle quite a bit with Kroll this year. So it's funny to think about this week and how it's important for this Camp Stiddy when it happens, and think about how important it is for everybody. It might be as important to Courtland Sutton as even to a guy like Bo Nix as a rookie learning how to lead.
Might be second most only to Bo, and maybe even first. And here's the thing, because he can always tell his agent what to do. He might go to Dallas and be like, this is the flipping greatest group. I love these guys. And he can tell his agent, call it off. Mm-hmm. I'm going to camp. I know you told me different, allegedly, or whatever I got to say, but like, this could make Court fall in love with his teammates.
Yeah. I'm going to go to camp, and I'm going to earn that extension by what I do with this new group.
Yep. They're going to pay me even more than I wanted.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to blow it up.
It'd be a baller move. It would be funny because it'd be a betting on yourself move, but it would also be faith in my teammates move, which you don't get a lot of those that cross over on the Venn diagram like that, right? Nope. That would actually be kind of cool that if he went down there, embraced his new teammates, and took a look at the work they were doing together and realized, okay, hey, it may not get me the contract today, but I want to be a part of this. And the best way I can go be a part of this is to come out there at the start of training camp, produce, be the wide receiver one. Because you know what? For everything that's gone on, wide receiver one is still in his hands and his to lose.
Yep. It's an important part.
Go
Sean
down
Payton
there,
offense.
affirm that, claim that, and be a lead and be a leader. Like here's a chance for Courtland Sutton. It's in year 7. You don't have to stop growing just because you're in mid career. And you know what? Frankly, year 7 means you may well be on the backside of your career.
Mhm.
Okay, but it's never too late to grow and get better, whether it's as a pass catcher or whether it's as a leader.
Fantastic.
This is not something I thought we'd be getting into on this show, but it excites me to think about that because I can say this. I mean, talking with Courtland Sutton after minicamp, after he'd met with Sean Payton, there was a more optimistic tone that he struck that Wednesday night at Coors Field.
Mhm.
That made me feel a bit better about the situation than I felt the day before.
And he sounded more like Court in that
Yeah.
clip than he did
That's
at
something.
minicamp.
That's something you hit on a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it doesn't sound like him.
yeah. Tuesday sounded like talking points. Wednesday sounded like the 14 that we've known for a while.
I am supposed to read this now, and I don't know, but it's just business. But I am not reading this. Like he might have had an earpiece in.
Yeah, Krusty the Clown. I heartily endorse this event or product.
Oh, and we
Yeah,
thank you for your support.
No one gets that.
Oh, that's an old one.
I
That's for
know,
sure.
like that.
Do they even make Bartles and James anymore?
No, sadly, that's a reference that's relevant to fewer and fewer people with each passing year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's what you're
On
gonna
that
get.
note,
Yes. On that note, help us out on YouTube. How do they do that, Mace?
like,
Comment,
share,
subscribe,
and hit that notification bell.
so that you
Never
miss
miss vid.
That's right. He's Andrew Mason. Follow him on all the socials at Mace Denver. I'm at Cecil Lammey saying OBT's a BFD. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned, and would you please stay frosty